The mindset of the NBA GM has shifted dramatically over the past 5 years, going from franchises trying to build a super team focused around 2 high-end stars, to franchises looking to develop homegrown talent. And in 2020, after James Harden requested a trade, the Rockets would begin to follow the homegrown mindset, firing decorated head coach Mike D'Antoni and eventually trading the face of the franchise to the Brooklyn Nets. And after playing a season with a roster full of unproven young pieces and injury-prone vets, the Rockets held the second overall pick in the 2021 NBA draft and selected Jalen Green, the G League Ignite standout full of potential. Also in that draft, the Rockets traded for the 16th overall pick to select Alperen Sengun, the Turkish big man who many compared to reigning MVP Nikola Jokic. 3 years later, and those two players would be the pieces the Rockets decided to build around. And after firing one of the worst head coaches in the league, Stephen Silas, and hiring Ime Udoka, the Rockets are back to relevancy, finishing with more than 40 wins in a season for the first time since 2020. But with a plethora of talent at the guard and wing position, the Rockets are going to have some decisions to make in the near future. This, of course, is a great problem to have. There's still many franchises today that don't have the pieces to compare to Houston's, even though they've been in a rebuild for longer. But the Rockets situation is not like the Celtics or Nuggets from years past. With both of those franchises, there is a clear prospect who showed signs of superstar potential, and a prospect who could complement that superstar. Outside of that, their depth was made up almost exclusively of veterans who could guide those young stars. Outside of the Rockets' free agent acquisitions of last year, Fred VanVleet and Dillon Brooks, the Rockets are almost the exact opposite. The Rockets have 2 young stars in Green and Sengun who have shown lots of potential, but the fit between those 2 stars have been questionable at times. So much so that the Rockets went on a huge winning streak when Sengun went down with an injury late last season, which allowed Green to run the offense and go on the best stretch of his career. And now a decision feels imminent where the Rockets front office will have to choose between Green or Sengun. But with a core consisting of Jabari Smith Jr., Amen Thompson, Reed Shepard, Cam Whitmore, Tari Eason, and veterans VanVleet and Brooks, is there that much of a rush to trade away one of the 2 pieces you've made a point to develop for the past 3 seasons? Here's where I think the trouble starts in Houston. In the summer, there was a somewhat shocking trade where the Rockets traded Brooklyn's 2025 and 2026 first rounders, which were almost guaranteed to be top 8 picks, back to the Nets for the Suns' 2025, 2027, and 2029 first rounders, in hopes of convincing the Suns to take back their own first round picks in a trade that would send Kevin Durant to Houston. That of course backfired because Matt Ishiba, for better and for much worse, is fully bought into the Suns' big 3 for some reason, and now the Rockets traded a guaranteed top pick in a loaded 2025 and 2026 draft for 3 picks that could very well sit in the mid-20s when it's all said and done. Other than that head-scratching move, it's been really solid stuff from GM Raphael Stone, but building the team was the easy part. Maintaining it and keeping 4 top 5 picks all under contract and happy is going to be difficult, and with Sengun and Green both up for contract extensions after this season, maybe Stone and that front office felt the need to make a change. Maybe they recognize maintaining this young core is going to be nearly impossible with a new CBA heavily penalizing teams that go into the second apron, and with so many young players on this team needing extensions in the next 3 years, maybe the Rockets want to get ahead of the curve and trade players they don't believe will be a part of the long-term future. So let's play the hypothetical game. The Rockets have decided to trade away one of Sengun and Green before the start of this season so they can focus on developing and promoting the young star they choose. So who should they trade? The question feels extremely complicated as both Sengun and Green have their pros and cons. Starting with Sengun, he's an all-around offensive weapon and someone who you can run your offense through. His rapid progression as a scorer and defender has been astounding, though you could argue that's because he has great scorers and defenders on the team. But with that core around him, his potential feels similar to a Jokic, or maybe more accurately a poor man's Jokic, which by the way isn't a shot at Sengun, but rather a compliment to how well-rounded Jokic is and how much more Sengun would have to develop to be on his level. If you buy into Sengun's progression, if you think he can improve his shooting past 15 feet, if you think he can slightly improve his playmaking, if you think his defensive limitations, specifically his lack of size and mobility, can be hidden or worked on, then you would probably keep Sengun here. Or maybe the most popular argument would be that a guy like Sengun is one of the rarest archetypes you will find, and if he can reach his highest potential, considering he's only 21 years old now, then this question is a no-brainer here. But then you would be trading away a former second overall pick, someone who has shown potential as a dynamic scorer and leader, someone whose mold commonly wins MVPs and NBA titles. But Green's potential, while still extremely high, feels more out of reach than Sengun's. Last season, Green was extremely inefficient, shooting 32.4% on catch-and-shoot opportunities and 35.4% on pull-ups. those two shot types make up more than 60% of his attempts, and this isn't any different from his previous 2 seasons in the league. Green's efforts were so questionable at times that his name was in trade rumors for months before finally it looked like he started to put it together. Post All-Star break, Green started shooting 37 and 38% respectively on catch and shoot and pull-up shots. That coincided with his 3-point percentage rising to a respectable 36.8% mark, and with his offensive efforts, the Rockets went 12-7 for the rest of the season after Sengun went down on March 12th. And on the other side of the ball, many within the organization noted Green's improvements, going from a complete liability to a solid defender who gave consistent effort, and that's what makes this decision even tougher. If you look at Green's career as a whole, there hasn't been too many improvements offensively, considering he's still inefficient and still takes the same tough shots he did his rookie season. But just defensively, his improvement has been outstanding, and if you think it to be a permanent improvement, maybe you think Green is your franchise guy. At this point in time, the decision to pick between Sengun and Green is really difficult, and it all depends on your opinion on each guy, but I'm gonna make it easier for you. Would you rather have the guy who has dramatically improved his game throughout the past 3 seasons, or the guy who's relatively stayed the same and only recently started to play well? I think 10 out of 10 times I would take Sengun over Green. As I said earlier, Green's potential feels a little more out of reach than Sengun's. Sure, his recent stretch was very impressive, but how sustainable is it over an 82-game season? I've seen Sengun dominate opposing defenders consistently and improve every passing game on both sides of the ball. I know that if I continue developing Sengun, he will continue improving. I don't entirely know that if I continue developing Green that he will continue to improve. So in this hypothetical world, let's say the Rockets keep Sengun and trade Green. At that point, you would have Amen Thompson or Reed Shepherd at the 2, Brooks at the 3, Smith at the 4, and Sengun at the 5. I would have no worries defensively putting that lineup out on the court. Offensively, it would be questionable, but if you divide Green's almost 17 shots a game amongst Van Vliet, Smith, Sengun, Thompson, Shepherd, and whoever Green would be traded for, I wouldn't be worried about the missed offensive output. Just fit-wise, it makes more sense for the Rockets to keep Sengun. But who exactly do they trade Jalen Green for? Well, with a plethora of first-round picks and a young star like Green available for trade, you could immediately go after a top 25 guy. And the first guy I like as a trade candidate is Donovan Mitchell, the Cavaliers star who may want out if things don't mesh as well as they should with new head coach Kenny Atkinson. Mitchell brings you one of the best first options in the league. He's a dynamic 3-level scorer who you can trust in the clutch and is a proven playoff performer. He's a player you can plug into Houston's culture that thrives on defense and effort and fits in seamlessly as the #1 option while holding his own defensively. Attaching a couple of first-round picks and contract filler with Green should be enough to get the trade done and make the Rockets one of the best teams out west. But if Mitchell and the Cavs have a successful start to the season, the Rockets are going to have to look elsewhere, and the next guy I would target is Jimmy Butler. Now, does Jimmy Butler fit the timeline of this core? Probably not, considering Butler is 34 years old and has only played over 60 games twice in his Miami tenure. But what Butler brings to this team is playoff experience and the ability to take over a game. What I think this Rockets team lacks right now is a bona fide #1 option, especially if they're going to compete right now. That's why I believe Mitchell and Butler would be the best options. Both guys have shown signs of being somewhat displeased at their current spot and have proven track records in the postseason that could guide this young core that's never played NBA basketball in May and June. But even if they can't get a trade done and ultimately keep both Green and Sengun, I think that's perfectly fine. Contending in the immediate future shouldn't be the #1 priority at this point, even if you have concerns about the lucrative extensions that's going to be handed out in the next couple of years. You drafted these players for a specific reason, and that's to build a young core that can develop and grow together, not blow it all up after you had one promising season. The key to rebuilds that we've seen teams screw up time and time again is staying on the path and letting things play out. You can tell which players are going to fit the team and which ones aren't over time. With this Rockets team, over the course of the past 3 years, you found a franchise center in Alperen Sengun, a solid defensive-minded 4 in Jabari Smith Jr., 2 guards in Amen Thompson and Reed Shepherd with ridiculous potential, and a number of small forwards who could prove to be starting caliber over time. The only thing you're missing is that dynamic scorer, who could be Jalen Green. But if you don't believe he has what it takes, or if he doesn't come out the gates next season with the same fire he did at the end of last season, then he clearly isn't the guy you drafted him to be, and it would be time to trade him for a proven vet. I understand why GMs and front offices screw up rebuilds so much, because it's hard to find the perfect time to cash in your chips and go all in. What the Rockets' future success is going to come down to is, number one, trading away the right pieces at the right time and for the right return. Again, this is a hard process, but if done right, the Rockets will be NBA champs in the future. Number two, allowing your young pieces to grow and develop both individually and as a team. Building stars is obviously the goal with high lottery picks, but building together as a team is a step many forget. Team chemistry isn't just a number on 2K. It's a real-life process that can either make you a better team or destroy all hopes you had of postseason success. And number three, most importantly, I repeat, do not trade for a superstar based on their individual success without factoring in how they would fit with the team. The Rockets are right for wanting Kevin Durant on their team because he's the ultimate plug-and-play guy who can benefit any team in the league. What I don't want to see Houston do is go after a guy that will shake the identity you built 3 years to work. If the Rockets can follow these 3 guidelines, I'd be shocked if they don't win a title in the next decade. If you agree or disagree with anything I said, make sure to comment down below your thoughts. And make sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to see more NBA videos just like this one. So with that, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.